Hey there everybody, it's Nathan Cool with nathancoolphoto.com, and in this tutorial I want to show you how you can shoot and light a beamed room. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, this is the example. Now this is the finished shot, and I'm going to show you some challenges, but you can already kind of imagine because of all these different beams that are here. There's a lot of dark spaces, a lot of reflective surfaces that are also on this, and as I'm going to show as I go through this example, and you can't tell as much from the finished shot, there was a large disparity of light. So there was a lot of light at the far end and almost no light at all that was then closer to camera as you would enter into this kitchen. So it was kind of a blinding light as you would walk into this kitchen. You would see it at the far end. But as you know, if you've tried to shoot rooms like this, those beams will cast shadows. If you're using the flash ambient blend, which I'm going to be showing in this example, you can often then get some of those orange shadows from those beams from those shadows. You get those orange color showing up in there. If you go too bright with it, you can get off those reflective surfaces, some other problems. So I'm going to show some techniques on how to light it so you can distribute the light more evenly doing a composite, and also how you can edit that together to make it pop the best you can with an even light distribution using the flash ambient blend, and once again using luminosity mode instead of the normal mode. A few videos back here, look for that one if you're not familiar with why I choose luminosity mode. Now a lot of this is covered within books number 1 and 2 in my series. You won't have to have those on hand today, and I'm going to be able to step you through a lot of this. So of course it will help though. If you haven't seen those, I do have a link down in the description of this video to my entire series on real estate photography. Anyways, let's get started moving through this example so you can see step by step how I would set it up, how I would shoot it, how I would then edit it, and then the final post-processing. Ready to see how this is done? Let's get started. So here is our ambient shot, and as you can see here, there's a lot of problems. This is what I was talking about with that large disparity of light. If you go to the far end of the room, you can't even see any detail. So being out here, we can see enough detail though, and this is properly exposed. But like I talk about in the interiors book, we can't really be right of center in this case. This is one of those cases where you kind of have to judge what would be then right of center for the histogram. In this case, I have to kind of underexpose it because I do have a lot that's being overexposed. So anyways, that's the major problem at hand. So how do we light that? If I go ahead and use a lot of light, and that's going to be this next frame here, this is just with the Explorer 600 to just camera left. Now it's angled backwards up against a white wall. If the white wall wasn't there, if it didn't have white, I'd just be using a reflector like I show in other tutorials and throughout the books. But I'm able to then get a lot of diffused light through this frame, but you can see it's not enough. Those dark colors are just soaking up all the light. It's not nearly enough. Let's go back here to our ambient shot. Review that just real quick. That's ISO 320. It's f7.1, which I keep both of those throughout the rest of these frames. And then this ambient is 1/13 of a second. When we move to the flash shot, to be able to eliminate enough of the ambient artifacts, which is a primary goal out of this, then I had to up this to 1/125th of a second. I could have probably upped that a little bit more, but then I'm going to start pushing towards sync speed. Not really necessary. If I went a little bit lower, I'd really start to get a lot more shine on the hardwood floor and on the cabinets. Didn't really like that. So anyways, now that I've got this exposure, if I had, once again, shown a lot of light, this was probably about 1/4 plus 0.3 power on the Explorer 600. If I had gone higher, then I'd be blowing out the foreground. So the fix for that is just start compositing for your lights. So here what I did, and this is very typical what I do, is I'm taking a light to the far end of the room, but if you notice there's a speed light halfway down. So this helps to distribute the light. So it's not a whole lot of light all the way down, it's just a distribution. In this case, the first speed light on a stand is at full power, and at the end of the room, just to get a little extra fill so I have enough color, which is the important point here, is that that's at half power. Now I just walk over to the other side of the room, everything stays the same. In this case though, I did decide to move my light stand a little bit closer to the camera since I don't care about the left hand side of this. That's why I'm standing in it. but I want to get a little bit more light over here. So I could tell that I was just lacking a lot of light here. That's fine. This was well lit enough, but then over here I needed more. Anyways, that's going to go away. You'll see that out of the composite, just like these other lights here will go away. So there's me holding it at half power on that other side of the beam, and then this at full power. Now, I am getting some harsh shadows up here from the center beam. It's almost unavoidable, but I'm able to reduce a lot of that compared to if I had just tried to up the power a whole bunch. From here, I'd have shadows all the way down, and you can see they're already starting to form here. If I had upped the power, it'd just be a mess to really try to clean up. Lastly, I did do a darken mode window pull, and this is highly exposed, so if I wanted to tone it down, I could, but anyways, that's there just in case I needed it. So anyways, the whole process here, once again, you'll see me go through. I'll apply just my standard pre-processing here. I'm going to go ahead and develop settings and copy those settings. Copy everything but the white balance. Do not copy the white balance, as you know I've talked about in other videos and throughout my books. So anyways, we've got that, but I did want to show something before moving on, is that notice how with just using that preset, a lot of it already lightened up, and the reason being is that the lens correction part of that pre-processing step gets rid of a lot of the vignetting, and this happened to be very dark than around the edges. So anyways, we've got something. Now, a lot of people at this point would maybe tone down the highlights in the far end. I really don't find a need for that very much, since I'm going to be lighting this very well, and I'm not relying on the ambient to do everything for me. In fact, I'd rather not. I want true color, which is why I'm going to go ahead and walk like I did here. I walk to the end of the room and I start flashing. So anyways, we copy these, paste these settings there, and I'm doing it, by the way, with a Control-Shift-V on my keyboard, and of course you could right click on there and go develop settings and paste settings as well. Once you have all that done, we're going to open all of those as layers in Photoshop. So go to Edit In, open as layers in Photoshop, and there's a lot of ways to do this. By the way, this is a bathroom I was working on earlier. But like, for instance, you've seen me use the Alt-P-E-O-O from the menus, and that all works really fine. So anyways, once those load up, I'm going to take that top layer and just turn that into, and I've got actions for these, but I'll show you all the steps, what would be involved with that. Turn it into luminosity mode, layer, mask, hide. Now comes the composite. So now it's a matter of which side do you want to paint in for the other. So here we'll just go ahead and take this one and say layer, mask, hide. Then take a brush at 100% flow and then paint everything out that shouldn't be there, like me, those light stands, all that. Now we've got a composite of two evenly lit shots. Now, to really blend this well, take that brush down to about a 20-30% flow and maybe brush in some of this other stuff. You can see how much you want to go by also just doing a shift click and seeing how well that goes on it. Now I am getting some shadows here. I could actually erase some of this up here because that was putting a little too much shadow in that area, and there, that's fine. Okay, now I've already got a better looking shot. I just need to add a little bit of ambient to it. So I'll add just now a little bit of ambient. I'll use a brush at 30% flow to do this fast and get, for instance, this beam up here. I don't want it to look like it's, you know, been lit, and I don't want this to look like it's been lit in the foreground. So I'll add first some ambient here to just try to get it natural. Some over here in this little alcove, maybe a little bit in the distance, but not a lot. Some over the stove where those lights should be. Some where the light was coming in over that counter, and maybe just a little bit more on the floor. Now, if you notice, I've still got these shadows up here on the ceiling. When I left this with the client, I left those there because they were somewhat still natural, even though they were unnatural, technically speaking, from the way the light was coming in there. So if you want to get rid of that, there's a very easy fix for that, and I'll show you that next. But first, let's just go ahead and even out some of this other ambient over here, and that's fine. Now, to fix that shadow up there, if I did all ambient, and I'll just shift click this mask, if I go up there, you can see what happens. It turns orange. You've probably seen this a lot from doing the flash ambient blend. I'm starting to get some of that. So one quick way to repair that is to duplicate the ambient layer. So I'm going to do a Control-J, and I duplicate it. Keep that luminosity mode layer, that ambient, on top, go to the one below, and turn it into normal mode. Get rid of the layer mask. Now, This is back to where we were with these colors. You can see there's a lot of orange cast that's coming in from, and green cast coming in from outside. So to get rid of that and use this as a repair layer for that spot, what you can do is go to Image, and then you go to Adjustments, and then Match Color. This is something I show in the advanced editing book, book number 2. If you click that neutralize checkbox here, a lot of times it will take care of it, and it did here as well. There's other methods too that I show, as you know, in the advanced editing book, but this will just take care of it for now. So layer mask hide, and then we'll just take a brush and then brush in that area there that we just want to repair that layer. Okay, so that's good and that's done. Now let's try the window pull. We'll need a little bit of it, probably should. So we'll put that up to the top, turn him into darken mode, layer mask hide. Now what I like to do when I'm having a lot of light go across these counters is I'll include that layer mask across all these highlight areas and then just erase the ones that I want. So just another tip here. So you can see what happened. It left a line here. We'll take care of that in a second. But the counter was a little bit brighter, so that toned it down just a tad. Of course, we got a nice window view in here, and then I can erase that line over here, or I can brush it in, whatever, but I'll just erase that extra. Boom, we're done. Okay, so that's the entire edit. So then we just go ahead and go Layer, Flatten Image. We save it. I'm going to do a Control S. And then we take it back here into Lightroom and apply a bump to it. And I'll just do this one without any vertical to it. You can make some adjustments, maybe bring out those shadows a little bit more in the wood, up that black a little bit. Anyways, when it's all done and said, the final product looked like this. So a key take-home point on this, whether it's a beamed ceiling or it's a very long room, very large room, any other challenges that you have, is don't be tempted to just flash a whole lot of light. Now, in very large rooms, especially very high ceilings, I'll be pumping up the Explorer to almost half power. But I rarely ever get it higher above that unless I'm reflecting all the way back. So I'm turning it all the way back using a white reflector to then bounce into a very large room. Sometimes I'll do that. But for the most part, like rooms like this, you couldn't really go much above a quarter plus 0.3. And if you know from my video on flash settings for real estate photography, you can look for that on my channel where I compare that to a speed light. It's about quarter power on the Explorer, is about a full power on most speed lights. So you're really starting to push it. But how do you get the light to the other part of the room? That's where you just take some cheap speed lights and just put them down one side, move them over to the other, and then you composite that together. And it's that distribution of light then that will do a lot for you. One, it helps to reduce the shadows because you're not casting too much light into the room. It also reduces the amount of color cast because instead of flooding the light at one area, which if I had bounced real close to the camera, it would hit that hard floor and that dark color would just bounce all over. So instead of hitting it very softly here, hitting it very softly there, and hitting it very softly at another room, then I'm not getting as much color cast floating around through that room. I'm not hitting one area of a castable region that will then come up and hit the walls and all that. So there are a lot of reasons to try to distribute your light a little bit more evenly, and this was just one of those examples. And something like this, it might take a little bit longer, but in houses that have beamed ceilings and other little niches and stuff like that, it's usually going to be a higher end shoot anyways, and you're going to be paid for it. This, by the way, was out of a house that was $2.4 million that we shot, and I'll be showing some more of that. By the way, on my Instagram, you can follow me on Instagram if you want to, which is /NathanCool, and of course on my Facebook page at NathanCoolPhoto. Anyways, I hope this tutorial was useful for you and that you can use some of this in your photography as well. If you did like this tutorial, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. It won't cost anything, and as soon as one of these videos is posted, you'll be the first to know. Thanks a lot for watching. Until next time, take care, be safe, and get out there and shoot something.